Well, students, good evening to all of you. Today, we are going to discuss, this is the exam preparation class of semester 2. So we are going to discuss regarding whatever we have prepared in our semester 2, B.Ed semester 2, according to the Punjabi University, Patiala. Right, guys? As all of you, you have got the date sheet. You have come to know that, right? The time of the date sheet is, morning. B.Ed exams are starting from morning in the morning sessions. Okay. So first we will talk about, this is our exam preparation class. So we will talk about, first of all, I open the, slides. So basically I'll open, one, two slides and, your notes, because we are discussing what we have, done in the past. Okay. And this is the exam preparation classes. So guys, what you have to do, important point, you can note it. Okay. Whenever, I will finish my class, so then you can ask with me, right? So everything is going on recording. Okay, guys. So first, you should know that this is your slide of your papers. Okay. The first paper is sociological perspective in education. Second is educational policy and planning. Third is curriculum development. Paper 4 and 5th is your teaching subject. Okay, you already know. And 6th paper, school management. And 7 is enriching learning through ICT. So guys, today we are discussing the two papers. Okay, first I'm going to discuss the education policy and planning. Then we will discuss the sociological perspective in educations. Okay. Day after, I will take the class, another your class of exam preparation. And day after, we will discuss the rest part of the paper 1 and curriculum development, school management or ICT. It is a very easy one because it is only 1.5 hour paper. So on that day, we will discuss it. Right, guys? And later on, I'll take your one class for the teaching subjects. Okay. So first of all, you should know that, first 1 to 3 papers are your 3 hours paper. Earlier, I was written on 1:30 to 4:30, right? Now, your time has changed. This is a morning session, right? Morning session. I think time is 9 to 12, huh, guys? Okay, please see on your, date sheet. Morning session.
9:30 to 12:30.
9:30 to 12:30, right, guys? Because it is written, everything is written on your date sheet. Okay, you have to follow the date sheet, right? Your center and your admit card. Okay, later on we will discuss, don't worry. First 1 to 3 papers are of 3 hours. Okay, and 4 to 7 paper. Okay, 4 paper kaun sa hai aapka, teaching 1 or teaching 2, and 6 or 7 is school management or ICT. Okay, guys, 1.5 hours ka, you know that, right? This is the distributions of the paper. You already know, Hana, we have discussed. So we are discussing everything now what we have discussed in the past. Similarly, guys, 3 sections would come: section A, section B, section C, right? In the section A, out of 4 questions, you have to attempt 2 questions. Okay, you have copy and pen now, all of you, right? So important point you all have to note, because in this lecture also, it is the exam preparation class. I'm going to give you the important tips, right? How you have to solve it along with this, right? Section B, out of 4 questions, you have to attempt 2 questions. Or section C, you have to attempt 10 questions, which is a compulsory, right, guys? So we stick on this slide because there is a lot of things I have to tell you, regarding this slide. So guys, first of all, you can note it. You will get the 36 sheets over there. Okay, you will get the 18 sheets over there. One sheet has the 2 part, right side part and the left side part, right? Total is 36 pages. So guys, always remember, these are the lengthy papers, and in these papers, the most important thing is 100% attemptation, right? That means you have to attempt the whole of the sheets from first page to 36 pages. So guys, you have to make your time management. Okay. In these exams, in B.Ed or M.Ed exams, okay, it is a different thing. You should know about the syllabus and others, but according to my experience, the most important thing is that you have to attempt the paper, guys. So you have to train your hand. Okay, you are giving training to your mind. है ना, every time you are learning, है ना, every time you are learning. But I will tell you, we have 7 days, 8 days, है ना, after 7 or 8 days we are going to give the exam. So I recommend to all of you, I advise to all of you guys, please start writing at your home, right? And what policy, what would be our strategy, what would be our time management, we discuss here in this slide, right? So first of all, everybody we should know that number one tip, you can note it along with that. Later on, you can get this recording also. Okay, but if you finish side by side, so it would be more beneficial to you. First of all, we should know that 3 papers we have to give off 3 hours. Am I right? And 4 papers you have to give off 1.5 hours. So first we discuss the 3 papers of 3 hours. You should know in every paper of 3 hours, you have to attempt 14 questions. How many questions? 14 questions, right? Please write it. The number one tip. 4 questions are long questions and 10 questions are the short questions. Okay, guys. So what would be the your time management? The number one, long answer. It should be of the 6 pages and it should not exceed from the 30 minutes. Okay, I repeat, answer of the long question, it should be of the 6 pages and the time should not be exceed from 30 minutes. Means in a 30 minutes, you have to finish a 1 long question. Okay, and as you know that 4 long questions you have to attempt, right? And you have to give the time of 30 minutes to each question. 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. कितना हो गया? 2 hours. Okay, in a 2 hours में what happened? You have finished your 4 long questions, right? Now you have 1 hour, rest of the 1 hour, and you have the 10 questions. Okay, now count the sheets. How many sheets you have filled? 6 sheets for a 1 answer. So 6 into 4 कितना हो गया? 24, right? Rest of the sheets आपके पास कितनी बची? How many sheets are left? 12 sheets. So in each sheet, right, 1 answer of a short answer on each sheet. मतलब 1 पेज हो गया या 1.25 पेज हो गया, right? So basically you have to utilize the 3 hours from that way. In a 3 hours, all the questions should be solved, right? Number one. And number second, now how we have to solve the questions, how we have to attempt the questions. So guys, first of all, I just want to tell you, this is your easy semester as compared to semester 1, because in this semester there is no theory. If you remember your semester 1, okay, philosophical perspective in education, so there was a lot of theories: pragmatism theory, idealism theory, naturalism theory, है ना? There is a lot of, and 4 thinkers थे, गांधी जी थे, विवेकानंद थे, जिद्दू कृष्णा मूर्ति थे. फिर पेपर 2 में साइकोलॉजी था, साइकोलॉजी में लर्निंग थ्योरीज थी, ट्रायल एंड एरर लर्निंग थ्योरी, क्लासिकल कंडीशनिंग. So what happens, please try to understand, when you are writing the answer of any theory, so you have to write the same, the theory says. Okay, if trial and error theory is given by the American psychologist Thorndike, so guys, you have to write the Thorndike. You cannot write the Pascal, right? Right? वो गलत हो जाएगा आपका. You cannot write the another name. You cannot write the Plato. Plato has given this theory. So Thorndike has given the trial and error theory. So you have to learn the same thing. Okay, I just want to tell you. But in these your papers, right? ऐसा कोई भी theory वाला नहीं है. These are the simple paper, and you can stretch as much as you, right, guys? So no need to go for the learn the name of the theories and other things. Okay, so how you have to attempt your paper? First, suppose any of the question comes, so we talk about our paper 2, hana? So what do you understand by education policy? What are the determinants of education policy? Today we will discuss. Okay, after this, suppose this questions comes. So guys, first of all, you have to talk about the educational policy. Okay, you have to write this is the education policy. And second question is, what are the determinants of educational policy? So you have to make 8 or 10 points. You have to make a points, and under every point you have to explain it. Okay, and last May what you have to do, don't remember to give the conclusion, right? You know that 6 pages you have to fill, at least 5.5 pages पे what you have to do, you have to finish your paper, and rest of the half page means 7 or 8 lines होंगी, है ना, उसमें you have to conclude. अब basically what you will write in the conclusion, whatever you have written above you have to write in the conclusion, right? So from that way you have to go, and this is an important thing. Okay, you must do this thing. Okay, and do not give more focus on your learning part. Okay, I'm advising you give focus on your writing part also. Okay, you have the sheet at your home, you can write it. Okay, and see the watch within a 30 minutes. If you are able to fill the 6 pages, then it is okay. Okay, if it doesn't happen, so then you have to practice, because you have the ample amount of a time. So guys, these were the general things you are aware of that. Okay, and along with this lecture, I just want to tell you one two more things. Okay, because it was coming in my mind, because now first time you are going for the offline exam. Earlier your semester first was the offline online, Hana? Everybody that. Now this is the offline, right? And centers, you already know your centers, Hana, where you have to studying in the colleges, that are your centers. You have to give the, but you have to reach at least sometimes before, so that you should be settled. Okay, and when the paper come and you start writing over there, right guys? So these were the general tips regarding how you have to maintain your time management. Okay, how you have to solve these all of the questions, right? So if anything happens in my mind, comes in my mind, so today we will discuss, because this is a exam preparation class, revision class. Okay, and after discussing, after 10 or 15 minutes, okay, you all can ask any of the questions. Okay, so we will discuss along with you. So that would be our interaction session. Okay, so we see the syllabus. So this is your paper 1, sociological perspective in education. तो अब ये देखें आपके पास, if you have the pen you can write it, because side by side I'm telling you the important thing also. तो first जो questions है ये तो आएगा ही आएगा guys. Okay, तो first questions, और आएगा भी क्या आएगा, approaches पूछेगा ये. Examiner will ask the approaches. Okay, in the solved answers and in the notes I have given you the notes of the approaches of sociology of education. So first you have to define the sociology of education. Then you have to talk about concept, scope, and approaches. And sociology of education, you should know that. Who is the father of sociology of education? Who gave this concept? Emile Durkheim. You should know that, right? उसके बाद आ गया culture. Culture में, culture you know that, है ना? Already I've given the notes, and after this slide we will also discuss. So culture में you should know, first syllabus is talking about the culture, then concept and characteristics. Okay, then uske baad what is happening, there are 3 things: acculturation, enculturation, or propaganda, right? Yeah guys, these acculturation or enculturation, these are the part of the culture, even propaganda also. What is a culture? Basically culture is a hamare jo riti riwaj hain, right, these are the culture, and you cannot separate the culture and society, right? So whatever happens in the society, it becomes a number of persons, they are adopting the different type of cultures. And third question is the social stratification. So in a social stratification, you have to talk about caste, class, gender, and religious stratification in Indian society. So yahan pe you should know that our old system of India, were stratified into the 4 type of strata, है ना? Brahmin, Vash, Sudra, or one more है, right? तो अभी we will discuss in the class. तो class के अंदर you have to talk about caste में, तो वो आ गया Brahmin, Shudra, Vash, और I think one more है, it will come in my mind. Class में yes, okay, class में you have to talk, class में class में you have to talk about different type of classes, like poor class, है ना, अमीर class हो गया, middle class हो गया, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. जेंडर की अगर बात करें तो जेंडर में वही आ गया, जेंडर इनइक्वालिटी, है ना, मेल एंड फीमेल वाली बात करनी है आपने पर, तो अभी हम डिस्कस करेंगे। सेक्शन रिलीजियस स्ट्रेटिफिकेशन इन इंडियन सोसाइटी, तो रिलीजियस भी इट इज बेस्ड अपॉन द क्लास और कास्ट, हाँ, यू हैव टू टॉक अबाउट। देन सोशल इनइक्वालिटी एंड नेचुरल इनइक्वालिटी, ये तो शॉर्ट में ही आएगा आपका। सेक्शन बी में एजुकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं, सिमिलरली अगेन वो आ गया, इनइक्वालिटी ऑफ एक्सेस एंड अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर एजुकेशन। राइट टू एजुकेशन एक्ट, तो गाइज ये तो आपने याद करना ही करना है, राइट टू एजुकेशन एक्ट डेफिनेटली आएगा, राइट, एंड इट इज अ लॉन्ग क्वेश्चन। सेक्शन ए में यू हैव कम टू नो दैट one long question is sociology of education and approaches, number 1. Okay, you can go for that because you can easily stretch these question. Okay, and third one you can go for the long, है ना, you have to prepare, so at least you have to think for the third part. And one more thing I just want to tell you, when the questions paper would come, so guys attempt those question which you can stretch the question, right? For example, in your paper this question come, define the culture characteristics and difference between enculturation and acculturation. Okay, this is a 10-mark questions. Guys, मैं शर्त लगा के कह सकता हूं, आप इसको कितना स्ट्रेच करोगे, you cannot stretch more, है ना। कल्चर में आप उसको you will fill a 1 page, then acculturation, enculturation, then what will you do? So sometimes what happens, student opts the wrong question. Okay, now he cannot stretch that question. So always you have to attempt, you have to first find that questions, which questions you can stretch the questions up to the 6 pages. Got it? This is the important thing. Similarly, Right to Education Act 2009, you can easily stretch up to the 6 pages. Okay, sustainable development और एजुकेशन फॉर ए 21st सेंचुरी, द 4 पिलर ऑफ एजुकेशन। ओके, ये भी आपका लॉन्ग में आ जाएगा। ओके, नेक्स्ट आपका आ गया सेक्शन पेपर 9, एजुकेशन पॉलिसी एंड प्लानिंग इन कंटेम्परेरी इंडिया। ओके, अब ये देखिए, टुडे वी विल डिस्कस दिस होल पेपर, राइट गाइस, होल पेपर वी विल डिस्कस, एंड half part of the sociology perspective in education, and the day after, okay, we will discuss half part of it this, and then again अपना curriculum development और आपके जो 1.5 hour वाले पेपर हैं वो we will discuss, right? अब देखो, it is a very easy one. Okay, मुश्किल से इसके 4, 5 या 6 टॉपिक्स ही हैं guys, right? तो फर्स्ट टॉपिक क्या है, एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, what are the determinants of education policy? Determinants का always you have to remember, determinants means the factors which influences the education policy. Okay, if I say what are the determinants of economic development, तो इसका क्या मतलब हुआ, those factors which are influencing the economic development, वो हमें लिखना है यहाँ, right? For example, I talk about learning, what are the determinants of a learning, means what are the factors which affects the learning, right? लर्निंग मतलब एज हो गया, न्यूट्रिशन हो गया, है ना, ये सब चीजें लर्निंग को इफेक्ट करती हैं। सिमिलरली ऑल द डिटरमिनेंट्स यू हैव टू राइट व्हिच इज अफेक्ट द एजुकेशनल पॉलिसी। ओके, देन ये 3 चीजें नोट कर लो, पॉलिसी फॉर्मुलेशंस, रोल ऑफ एमएचआरडी, एनसीईआरटी और नेस्कॉम, दीज आर कॉल्ड एजेंसीज, है ना, जो कि इंप्लीमेंट करती हैं पॉलिसी फॉर्मुलेशंस को, राइट? MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource and Development, है ना, many time I have told you that our education system comes under the MHRD, or MHRD takes care of the 2 types of education, one is a school education and one is a higher education. School education, it is from 1st class to 12th class, or after the 12th class it is called the higher education. Okay, so here you have to talk about role of a MHRD, कि education policy को formulate करना है, तो what would be the role of MHRD? NCERT, you know that, National Council of Educational Research and Training, और नेक्स्ट है NASSCOM, नेशनल एसोसिएशन ऑफ ए सॉफ्टवेयर काइंड ऑफ दिस है, राइट? तो ये भी हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे, राइट? अब थर्ड वन इज एजुकेशनल प्लानिंग, concept, types and approaches. So here is again approaches are important. Approaches means methods. What are the methods, what are the techniques, what are the approaches, right? And the current plan for mobilizations and allocation of funds from different level of education. Okay, what is written? The current plan, mobilization and allocation of funds for different level of education. तो हमारी education कितने level की होती है? एक प्राइमरी एजुकेशन लेवल हो गया है ना, 1st to 5th क्लास, सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन हो गया 6th to अगेन है ना 10th क्लास, यू कैन से हायर एजुकेशन हो गया आफ्टर 10th या आफ्टर +2 है ना, वो सारा हायर एजुकेशन हो गया. तो बेसिकली वी हैव टू टॉक अबाउट डिफरेंट लेवल्स ऑफ एजुकेशन पे हाउ वी एलोकेट द फंड्स. सेक्शन बी में ऑलरेडी 1964-66 इंडियन एजुकेशन कमीशन, कोठारी कमीशन, हाँ, वी हैव ऑलरेडी डन इन द सेमेस्टर 1, राइट. Then National Policy of Education 68 and 1986 or 1992. 1992 was a revised of 1986. Okay. Then उसके बाद National Knowledge Commissions, Policy Recommendations और बिरला मनी रिपोर्ट एंड स्किल डेवलपमेंट. तो ये सेक्शंस बी में सारे के सारे ही फुल फ्लेज मतलब लॉन्ग क्वेश्चंस बन रहे हैं. एंड वंस यू प्रिपेयर द लॉन्ग क्वेश्चंस, शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस ऑटोमेटिकली वहीं से आ जाएंगे, राइट गाइस. तो डायरेक्टली आई मूव टू दी what we have to do the today, right? In the education policy and planning, we have to discuss this thing we will discuss day after. Okay, guys. So now I'm going to open the notes which I have already sent to you of education policy and planning and sociology of education, right, guys? So that everything will come in your mind once again, right? So this is the our notes of second semester, and as well as it is covering the last year paper. So guys, this is your last year paper. Okay, so I have made it these notes for you. Last year paper I have sold, and when you will see that this last year sold paper, it is covering your full syllabus of a paper 2, right? Education policy and planning in contemporary India. अब ये section A में these 4 questions came last year. The first questions came of discuss the determinants of education policy in a country. Okay, now I have increased the size so that it is easily readable to you. The second questions came, explain the role of Ministry of Human Resource and Development in education policy formulations. आ गया ना वही questions, MHRD वाला, role of MHRD in policy formulations, right? Third is explain the concept of education planning, discuss different approaches of education planning. So you have to tell different approaches of educational planning. Last May, discuss the central factors that are kept in mind while allocating the funds for different level of education. तो guys, इसमें से आपको 2 questions करने हैं, तो कोई भी आप 2 कर सकते हैं, लेकिन today's session we will discuss all the 4 questions. Okay. And section B is talking about major recommendations on school education by Indian Education Commission 64-66. Basically, matlab Kothari gave the, he was the chairman of the 1964-66 commission. He talked about for the upliftment of the primary educations and higher educations. Okay, he talked about the improvement of the higher education also. But the question is that you have to understand the question. Under this question, it is talking about, it is asking about, you have to tell about recommendations of Kothari Commission's Indian Education Commission 64-66 on school education. So guys, इसमें higher education नहीं, in this you have to talk about the school educations. Okay, main system क्या था, 10+2+3 structure है ना, launch हुआ, right? Science educations launch हुई, women educations launch हुई, different kind of, मतलब related to the school educations you have to talk. Similarly, National Policy of Education, here you have to talk about recommendations made on the school education. Got it? Third आ गया बिरला अंबानी report on privatizations of a higher educations, और next आ गया skill development mission launched in 2014. So guys, this paper, this questions paper of a last year is covering your full syllabus. So I'm going to start and I'm going to discuss with you, right? The first answer is discuss the determinants of a education policy in a country. So guys, as you know that today is our exam preparation class, revision class, and I'm telling you the tips. So first of all, I just want to tell you, when this question comes, so you don't have to directly make the heading of determinants of educational policy. Okay, so basically, first of all, you have to see the number of this, whether it is breakdown or not. Okay, we can see here. Okay, So here, first of all, you have to talk about educational policy, at least of one page, 1.5 page. Okay, you can go with that, right? Uske baad, after that, you have to talk about determinants of educational policy. So basically, two things you have to mention, right? Akela determinants of education policy up to the 6 pages, it would be, at least 4 pages you can go give for the determinants of education policy. Determinants means wo factors which affects the educational policy, right? So first you talk about the educational policy. So ye I have, given here education policy. So basically, in a education policy are the principle of a government policy making in educational sphere, as well as collections of a laws and governs the operation of a education system. Okay. So here, I have defined about, half pages, but, with the help of the notes, you can go for the 1 page also, guys, right? Okay. So 1 page you can go for the education policy. Then from the next page, you can start the determinants of education policy. Okay. I have discussed in the at least, half page, this one. Okay, right? So next we talk about the determinants of a educational policy, right? Determinants means which affects the educational policy. Geographical factors, you know that now, in a geographical factors. Sometime, there are very pathetic conditions in India, in some states in the India. Suppose central government, they have to launch a education policy, right? And that education policy is not implemented in the same rate to all the states because of the geographical factors, right? For example, आप J&K की बात कर लें, है ना, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में, है ना, 6 महीने तो वहीं पे, है ना, there is a snow falling and others, right? So geographical factors, how becomes the obstacles in the way of implementing the education policy, right? Then economic factor, right? Sometimes some states, है ना, आप ये देखिए, वहां पे there is a very less per capita income, है ना? When we compare in all the states, Punjab is the per capita income of a Punjab is higher than as compared to UP and Bihar and others. तो इकोनॉमिकल फैक्टर्स भी है, ये भी जो है इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं एजुकेशनल पॉलिसी में, राइट? Historical factors, social and cultural factors. So these all the factors we have already discussed, guys. Okay, that's why I'm going swiftly, right? Because it is an exam preparation class. Okay, political factor. Sometime, education minister, Hana, he has to manage all the things of the education. So, political ideology, it also affects the educational policy. Religion factors, language factors. So these all technological factors, these all the factors in new trends and challenges. These all the factors you have to define about determinants of a education policy. So देखो क्या हो गया, what is the way to solve the question? First, define about the education policy of 1 page, right? Yeah, less than 1 page. Then start the determinants of the education policy. And in the end, guys, I didn't give, but you have to give the conclusion. Okay. Yeah, I have given in a very short way, right? By solving these questions, but at least you have to give half pages. Okay. Okay. The second questions came in the last year paper. Explain the role of a MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource and Development, in education policy formulation. Okay. When the central government, when they make the education policy, so it was formulated by some of the educational agencies. What are the educational agencies? NCERT, SCERT, है ना? अब यहाँ पर he is asking about MHRD का क्या role है for the formulations of a educational policy. Formulate करता है ये, right? तो इसमें आपने first of all you have to talk about the policy formulations. Okay. And at present the Ministry of HRD is divided into the 2 departments, right? The departments of a school education and literacy, which deals with the primary and secondary education, adult and educational literacy. You know that now? Already I have discussed this thing very well. And the department of a higher education, which talks about the higher institutions, scholarship schemes and others, each we get from the center. Ab, little bit you have to define about the MHRD, the main objective of MHRD. Then you have to come on, ये देखो first page you have defined about MHRD, है ना, जबकि he asked what is the role of a MHRD in policy formulation. Okay, so guys, half page you can take, या one page you can take for the what is asking in the questions, right? First you have defined the MHRD, then you have defined about the what is the role of a MHRD in educational policy. अब जो एग्जामिनर है वो जो चेक कर रहा है, he is checking your paper, okay, so when the question paper comes, he has in the mind that student also know about the MHRD, है ना, little bit he has defined, and again MHRD, okay, so naturally you will get a full marks, right guys? So then role of a, how the MHRD plays its role in policy formulation, means educational policy formulation, right? Development of a higher education's main objective, policy initiations, role through the central cabinet, guidance and directive to the state, role through the cab. Cab के बारे में जरूर याद रखना. This is important. Okay, this you have to define more and more. There is a lot of role of the cab. Always remember, Central Advisory Body Board of Education. Central Advisory Board of Education's cab. Cab is a one department which gives the central government or state government को बताता है regarding the educations. Okay, जितने भी states के हैं वो सारे के सारे इस cab के द्वारा whatever is given by the cab, implemented by the cab, उनको follow करते हैं. Okay, right? Second question हो गया हमारा ये. Third question है guys, explain the concept of educational planning. Discuss the different approaches. अब these are two questions. If your question is of a 10 marks, so 5 marks for this, 5 marks for this. Okay, so sometime student क्या गलती करती हैं? Mithween ma'am, please can you mute yourself, Mithween ma'am? Okay, so concept of educational policy and discuss the different approaches of education policy. So this is an important tip guys. You have the copy and pen na, Anna? In the starting I have told you, so you can write side by side. Later on we can discuss. Guys, this questions comes of 5 plus 5, means at least 2.5 pages or 3 pages you have to give for educational policy. Then rest of the 3 pages and 3.5 pages you have to talk about different approaches of educational planning. Educational planning, right? So you have to talk about the educational planning. What is educational planning? An educational plan refers to the efforts on planned and premeditated change to brought about in the system of education. यहाँ पे I think कुछ गलत है यहाँ पे. Okay, so this definition you can take that. Education planning involves a systematic and scientific set of decisions for future action with the aim of achieving educational goals and objectives through effective use of a scarce resources. It provides a tool for coordinating and controlling the direction of education system so that the educational objectives can be realized. यही होता है education policy, educational planning, है ना, कि हम first of all we decide some of the educational objectives and another 5 year, because it is a 2022 up to 2027, है ना, these are our educational objectives. So keeping in view that educational objectives, we make the educational planning. So this educational planning, it includes all the things. Okay, then okay, characteristics of effective education plannings. Okay, you must define. Okay, it should be dynamic. अगर educational planning ही कोई rigid होगी, okay, so it is very difficult to implement. It should be dynamic, it should be comprehensive, it should inculcate all the things, it should include all the things. Educational planning should be integrated, should be iterative, should provide for exploration of alternatives. ये देखो heading जरूर देने आपको. Even guys, when you are learning na, to learn the headings. The moment if you know the heading na, so you can write easily whatever you have to write in under the headings. Instead of learning all the 6 pages, okay, you just learn in this questions. Take the example of this questions. Instead of learning all the things, you learn here educational planning, right? Characteristics of educational planning, उसके points क्या है? मतलब you can write on your notebook, है ना? अलग से you can make your note, okay? कि these are this, एंड उसकी अप्रोचेस क्या है उसकी एजुकेशनल प्लानिंग, राइट। तो ये अप्रोचेस एक बार आप पढ़ लेना, ओके। तो ये 3 तरह की अप्रोचेस होती हैं, तो वी डिडंट डिस्कस इन द क्लास, तो डे आफ्टर वी कैन डिस्कस गाइस। सोशल डिमांड अप्रोच, मैन पावर रिक्वायरमेंट अप्रोच और कॉस्ट बेनिफिट अप्रोच, ये याद रखना, दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट। तो डे आफ्टर वी विल डिस्कस, राइट गाइस, अप्रोचेस ऑफ एजुकेशनल प्लानिंग। Then last में you can define significance या importance of educational planning, है ना, in a one page you can write by yourself, okay. Fourth questions, discuss the central factors that are kept in mind while allocating the funds for different level of education. तो आपको पता होना चाहिए प्राइमरी एजुकेशन जो होता है ना, लेवल्स ऑफ एजुकेशन, प्राइमरी के बाद सेकेंडरी आ गया, फिर हायर एजुकेशन आ गया, तो कौन कौन से फैक्टर्स को आपको ध्यान में रखते हुए यू हैव टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट द एलोकेट द फंड, okay. And above mentioned questions was asking about the educational policy, approaches of education policy. Ab now the education policy has made, ab now it is talking about how you will allocate the funds for different level of education, right? So here you have to talk about educational finance in India, so a little bit you have to talk about pre-independence, right, means whatever the finance you allocate for the education, you have to talk about pre independent India and post independence India, you have to talk. So little bit I have given the mention. Then after independence, okay, ki how much budget was allocated for the education, okay. What was pre independent India 1947 से पहले क्या था, after 1947 के बाद क्या हो गया, right? So little bit you have to talk. Then you have to talk about different levels of education, right? Primary level के ऊपर कितना, मतलब how much fund are allocated, secondary level के ऊपर how much funds are allocated, higher education पे how much funds are allocated, right? At present, most of the burden of the primary and secondary education is borne by the state government, okay. And here guys you also have to mention, because this is a general question, right, okay. So you should have a general understanding of that. Here you can mention that that na education is it is on the concurrent list, है ना, state का subject भी है और central का subject भी है, तो basically ज्यादा जो इसके ऊपर जो इसका bear करता है expenses है other things, so here you can write that most of the burden on the primary and secondary education is borne by the state government, is taken by the state government, right? So you can write that, because here na if you want to, here you can define about the SSA and RMSA. What was the SSA? Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Basically the purpose of a Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan to enroll the students in the primary education, because primary education free and compulsory educations from the age group of a 6 to 14, right? So government launched na SSA Abhiyan in order to enroll the student more and more in the primary educations. You can talk about the RTE Act also, guys. RTE Act, it also talks about the free and compulsory educations, okay. You can talk about, and RMSA you can talk about, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, right? What is the difference between SSA and RMSA? The main aim of a SSA to enroll the student in the primary education, and the purpose of a RMSA to enroll the student to construct the school of secondary education, okay. So you can define here also, you can see that if I have defined over there, okay. Okay, next, so it is a easy one, है ना, last semester में भी अपन discuss हुआ है बहुत, recommendations on Indian Education Commission 6466, right? तो वो सारा आपने बताना है, दौलत राम कोठारी थे, है ना, he was the chairman of the 1964-66, है ना, first semester में we have discussed lot, right? तो commissions क्या, ये recommendations commissions की बतानी है ना, उसने क्या क्या launch किया, provisions of a free and compulsory educations, languages, there's this one, right? प्राइमरी एज में स्टूडेंट इतने साल का होगा, प्राइमरी एज में जाएगा, इतने साल का होगा, लोअर में जाएगा, इतने साल का होगा, फिर अगली क्लास में जाएगा, राइट? फॉर एग्जांपल न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी हैज कम, है ना, न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी सेज दैट सिस्टम इज 5+3+4, है ना, कि एटलीस्ट 3 इयर्स का आपने लेना है। तो सिमिलरली कि उसने क्या क्या दिया 1964-66 में इंडियन एजुकेशन कमीशन ने, यू टॉक अबाउट, राइट। ये देखिए 4 ईयर ऑफ ए लोअर प्राइमरी, 3 ईयर ऑफ ए हायर, फिर 3 ईयर ऑफ ए दिस, ओके, स्कूल करिकुलम, but you have to talk about the school education, you don't have to talk about the higher educations, okay. Recommendations of Indian Education Commission 64-66 on school education, okay guys। तो बुक में तो आपका बहुत भरा हुआ है, राइट, तो उसमें से कई क्वेश्चंस और मैंने इजी करके आपके लिए पॉइंट्स बना दिए हैं, सो दैट कि टू लर्न द पॉइंट इज इजियर, है ना। तो ये आप पॉइंट्स याद कर सकते हो। डेवलपमेंट ऑफ ए क्वालिटी ऑफ ए टेक्स्ट बुक, राइट, अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ द वो क्वालिटी ऑफ टेक्स्ट बुक्स के अंदर ये पॉइंट्स आ गए, राइट। फिर इंप्रूवमेंट इन द एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम, हाँ, इट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट, फिर इंप्रूवमेंट इन द मेथड ऑफ टीचिंग, राइट। but day by day ना आप improve करते गए ना guys, do you know that when 1951 first 5-year plan was made, keeping in view that for the upliftment of the educations, only 1951 में we have only 11% literacy rate, right। so with the help of these helps, all the commissions बैठे, education commissions आए, national policy of education आया, right। so slowly and gradually we are improving our education system, right। so on that time improvement in the method of teaching, okay, new methods jo launch hue, you have to talk about vocalizations of education, you have to talk about, okay, means what will happen, okay, we are giving knowledge to the student, what will happen after the 10th or 10+2 when the student moves from the school, so what we are making to the student. So Indian Education Commissions started the vocation educations when the student moves from 10th or +2, he should be trained, right, vocational educations, vocational courses was added, right, so you have to talk about this. Provisions of a part-time and provisions of a part-time vocations education, common school system hona chahiye, this is all, okay। Similarly you have to talk about recommendations of national policy on education, okay guys। so you always that now you have already done in the semester 1 also, okay, but I have made a simple points for you, okay, these are okay simple points for the NPE. Our 7th question is discuss the recommendations of a Birla Ambani report on privatizations of a higher education. Definitely these questions would come, right। so first you have to define about the what was Birla Ambani report, ये कौन थे, बिरला अंबानी कौन थे, ये नेम ऑफ द पर्सन है, एक बंदे का नाम था बिरला, दूसरे का नाम था अंबानी, मुकेश अंबानी and this one Birla, right, okay, सरनेम बिरला था उसका, okay। The Prime Minister Council on Trade and Industry appointed a committee headed by the industrialist, ये दोनों industrialist थे, मुकेश अंबानी and Birla, to suggest reform in the higher education sector of India. The committee submitted a report in 2001. The document was entitled A Policy Framework for Reforms in Educations. Means educations में reform करने के लिए ये दो person जो industrialist थे, okay, they submitted a one report to the Prime Minister of India in order to upliftment of the higher educations, okay, talking about higher education, okay, not the primary, not the secondary, right, higher educations। इन्होंने क्या बोला था basically, they talked about the government will bear the responsibility of the primary education and secondary educations. For the higher educations it should go into the hand of the private players, right guys। मतलब in a simple 1 or 2 lines में आंसर क्या है, primary educations और secondary educations में government has to give more and more focus, right, and higher education it should go into the hand of the private players। Now you have seen that from last 7, 8, 10, 15 years, number of a higher education school, colleges have opened, right, number of a courses have come, right। तो ये सारा आपने उस कमेटी के बारे में लिखना है, उस कमेटी का क्या क्या, some important recommendations of a committee, primary and secondary education, right। ये कहते हैं इसको वो बना दो, कंपलसरी बना दो, टीचर एजुकेशन, सेंसरी टेक्नोलॉजी, टीचर एज फैसिलिटेटर, वैल्यू एजुकेशन, कॉमन नेशनल कंटेंट। प्रतिभा मैम, कैन यू म्यूट योरसेल्फ, प्रतिभा मैम, प्लीज म्यूट योरसेल्फ, you know noise is coming, decentralizations of management, common admission test, private university. So guys, you just have to, learn the points. It is a very easy one. Okay, privatizations of a higher educations. Okay, government का क्या role होगा? Government should confine its responsibility to funding and ensuring the primary education is a compulsory and free, and secondary education is a compulsory, है ना? Just I talked. Okay, बाकी जो higher education will go into the hand of a, इसकी criticism भी लिखनी है. You have to write about the criticize. काफी criticize हुई, self centered है, privatizations of a higher education है, right? Cost बहुत है इसकी, है ना? राइट तभी तो आपने देखा था एमबीबीएस और कितने प्राइवेट भी खुल गए, है ना? बीडीएस के कॉलेजेस खुल गए, सीटें आप देखो 20-20 लाख, 40-40 लाख, 50-50 लाख की सीटें जाने स्टार्ट होगी, है ना? तो नॉर्मल जो मिडिल लेवल का पर्सन है ना, वो कैसे, मतलब हाउ द पेरेंट्स ऑफ ए मिडिल लेवल, है ना, दे कैन अलाउ देयर स्टूडेंट्स फॉर द बिकम डॉक्टर एंड अदर्स. तो काफी ये क्रिटिसाइज भी हुई है. तो आपको यू हैव टू टॉक अबाउट criticism of privatizations of a higher education. Okay, last me guys, you have to talk about the skill development mission, right? Launched in 2014. So here वही चीज आ गई. It is also simple. You have to talk about all the skill development mission, है ना, कि भाई skilled बनाना है हमें सारों को, right? Objective of the policy क्या है? This is the opportunity for lifelong learning, है ना? We already discussed, so that's why matching demand with trainers aspirations, क्योंकि हमें ट्रेंड करना है, हमें उनको स्किल्ड बनाना है. अभी आपने देखा भी होगा, अभी ये जो भी है पॉलिसीज वगैरह लॉन्च हो रही हैं, तो बेसिकली स्किल्ड बनाने के लिए, ट्रेंड बनाने के लिए ये सारी पॉलिसीज को लॉन्च किया जा रहा है, राइट? क्रिएशन ऑफ ए हाई स्किल्ड वर्क फोर्स, राइट? बिकॉज इंडिया में देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ पॉपुलेशन ऑफ ए यंग पर्सन गाइज. मतलब वी हैव द पॉपुलेशन ऑफ ए 1.3 और 1.4 आई थिंक, है ना, 1.4, राइट? 140 करोड़ की पॉपुलेशन वी हैव. But out of a 1.4, 140 crore में से around 65 या 70% populations of a young person, right? So this is, you can say that, मतलब we have the it is for the development of the nations. मतलब without the natural resources, we have the human resources. If we implement these human resources in an effective way, so we can become the top level developed country like America, Australia, right guys? Creations of a high skilled power, right? High quality of a teacher training institutions होने चाहिए, है ना? Trained teachers होने चाहिए. So these general things you have to write. तो सारे के सारे ये points about skill development missions के हैं, right? Finance उसका देखो questions आ गए ना, appraisal. तो appraisal word आया तो you have to define everything, right? Critically review आ जाता है, appraisal आ जाता है, तो you have to define everything. If the questions comes कि भाई इसके objectives क्या है, तो then and what are the advantages and objectives of skill development missions, so you have to restrict yourself over there. But the question is asking appraisal, है ना, उसको वो करो, critically evaluate करो, appraisal करो. So then you have to write little bit every point. So what you have to learn? You have to learn points in this questions also, right guys? So this is all about your last year solved paper. Okay, I'm going to save it and see in the paper, see in the syllabus, right? So I'm going to open the syllabus again. Education policy and planning, ye dekho, right? So we have covered education policy, right guys? Meaning we have covered, policy determinants we have covered, है ना? We have covered one questions na, define the education policy, what are the determinants of education policy. Second, we have covered the MHRD, NCRT and NASCOM. It is a very simple. You can learn from the book also. Okay. If you want the notes, so day after I can send you the notes also of this all. Okay. Otherwise, it is a simple, because whatever is written in the book, तो वही तो हमें लिखना है, right guys? Because we cannot change, na, right? And second, educational planning types and approaches. ये questions we have discussed. Plan mobilizations and funds for different level of education. 1964-66 we discussed, 86 we discussed, Birla Ambani report we discussed, skill development we discussed. So in this paper, the left part is National Knowledge Commission or 1968 policy. Okay, you can learn from your book, and otherwise I can give you the notes. Okay, otherwise today whatever I have sent you, it is covering your full paper, right guys? तो नाउ second note I have also given to you, sociological perspective in education. Okay, तो इसमें क्या है, sociology of education, culture, social stratification. Okay, I think this we have already covered. Okay, but I'll go very swiftly. Okay, just to revise you, है ना, you should know that कि भाई ये हमारा, these are in my syllabus and we have to cover it. So this is your paper, right? Last year paper. The questions came. Questions ही यही आते हैं, और कोई questions भी नहीं बनेंगे. देखो, define sociology of education, describe its different approaches. What is social stratifications? Describe the role of a class in creating social stratifications. What is enculturation? Enculturations क्या होता है? When we get the everything, norms, values within the same culture, this is called enculturations, e के साथ. Whenever we get the norms, values from other culture, that this is called the acculturations, right? Propaganda क्या चीज है, right? तो ये 4 क्वेश्चंस मैंने दिए हैं, चारों क्वेश्चंस अपन डिस्कस कर लेते हैं गाइस, राइट? देन आई टेक योर क्वेरीज, राइट? सोशियोलॉजी ऑफ एजुकेशंस, तो ये फर्स्ट आपका इट इज स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम हियर, so I'm going to increase the size. Okay, the first question is sociology of educations. Shubhika, can you mute yourself? Shubhika, what is defined the sociology of educations? Briefly describe it different approaches. Anna, we have done, you also have already got the notes also. In fact, I have explained in the answer also. So you have to talk about the sociology of education, focuses its attention on understanding how the institutions of education functions in relation to the other social institutions in society, right? Sociology of education ये study करती है how the one institutions of education is working better, या how it's working as compared to the other institutions of education, right? This is the sociology of education. As well, sociology of education is defined as a study of the relations between education and society. Okay, nature and characteristics of a sociology of education, guys. Sociology branch of a sociology है ना, relationship आपने ये सारी बात करनी है इसके अंदर. Needs की आप बात कर लो यहाँ पे, scope की भी you can talk about. Then you have to talk about approaches of a sociology of education, right? ये 3 अप्रोचेस होती हैं, ये भी हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे डे आफ्टर. ओके, मैं मतलब पूरी पीपीटी ही आपको डिस्कस करवा देंगे इसकी. अब तक आप थोड़ा इसको पढ़ लो सो दैट आपको पता लग जाएगा ये 3 अप्रोचेस ये होती हैं, राइट? फंक्शनलिज्म अप्रोच, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट थ्योरी अप्रोच, इंटरेक्शनिज्म अप्रोच, राइट? कॉन्फ्लिक्ट थ्योरी अप्रोच गिवन बाय द कार्ल मार्क्स, जिसने कहा था एक रिच सोसाइटी और जो पुअर सोसाइटी है, राइट? रिच सोसाइटी क्या करती है, पुअर सोसाइटी को एक्सप्लॉइट करती है. द डे कम्स, है ना, वो इन दोनों में फिर झगड़ा हो जाता है, फिर उससे एक नई सोसाइटी और निकल के आती है, राइट? तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट थियरी अप्रोच की हम बात करेंगे, फंक्शनिज्म की और इंटरेक्शनिज्म की हम बात करेंगे अंडर द अप्रोचेस ऑफ ए सोशियोलॉजी ऑफ एजुकेशन डे बिफोर, राइट? तब तक आप इसको पढ़ लो, राइट? तो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चंस के बाद नोट्स आपके प्रिपेयर होंगे गाइस. सेकंड है व्हाट इज अ सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन, डिस्क्राइब द रोल ऑफ ए क्लास इन क्रिएटिंग सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन. तो सबसे पहले तो आप सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशंस के बारे में बताओ क्या होता है. सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन, स्ट्रैटा मींस कैटेगराइजेशन, है ना? तो सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन मींस कैटेगराइजेशन इन द सोसाइटी. सोसाइटी में स्ट्रैटा है ना, स्ट्रैटा, है ना? इन ए सोसाइटी सम आर रिच पर्सन, सम आर पुअर पर्सन्स, सम आर बिलो द पॉवर्टी लाइन, है ना? ये स्ट्रैटा है, ये हो गया. इट इज अकॉर्डिंग टू द यू कैन से क्लास, है ना? कास्ट सिस्टम, कास्ट का भी स्ट्रैटा है ना? ब्राह्मण, वैश्य, शूद्र, है ना? ब्राह्मण्स जो होते हैं आप उसको कैटेगरी में रखते हैं ऊपर वाली में, है ना? वैश्य हो गया, शूद्र हो गया, एससी कैटेगरी, ये सब जो है ये सारा स्ट्रैटा ही है सोसाइटी में. लेकिन ही इज आस्किंग डिस्क्राइब रोल ऑफ क्लास इन क्रिएटिंग द सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशंस इन इंडिया. कि जो क्लास है वो कैसे सोशल स्ट्रैटा को क्रिएट करती है. तो क्लास में आपने अपर मिडल लोअर सारों का डिफाइन करना है इसके अंदर, ठीक है? इट्स अ इजी वन क्वेश्चन. तो फर्स्ट तो मेन फीचर ऑफ ए सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशंस, है ना, क्या क्या होते हैं. ये देखो नंबर सेकंड पढ़ो जरा. It is based upon the social stratification is based upon the caste, class, status, power of community or sections of a people within the framework of the society. In every society mein guys, there is a strata, there is a social stratifications, lesser or more, okay, but you will see the social stratifications in every society, okay. From that way na society जन्म लेती हैं, ऐसे ही societies बनती हैं, right? Okay, तो आप करेक्टर देन रोल ऑफ ए क्लास इन क्रिएटिंग द सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशंस. तो क्लास के अंदर वो सारा आप अपना सोशल क्लास एंड एजुकेशन में, ये देखो अपर क्लास, अपर मिडिल क्लास, लोअर मिडिल क्लास, लोअर क्लास, ओके. तो यही बताना था हमने, क्लास कैसे क्रिएट करती हैं सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशंस. तो नेचुरली जो हायर क्लास है ना, दे वांट दैट, है ना, दे हैव टू put up their self in a posh area, है ना, kind of. तो वो स्टार्टा आना स्टार्ट हो जाता है उनकी सोच में, बिकॉज द वे लेवल गोज इंक्रीजिंग, तो हर उसकी डिमांड, हर चीज जो है डिफरेंट डिफरेंट होती है. तो आपको एवरीथिंग यू हैव टू डिफाइन ऑल दी स्टार्टा बेस्ड ऑन दी क्लास, ओके. तो ये फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन है गाइस आपका, राइट. तो आई हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड. उसके बाद आ गया आपका एनकल्चरेशंस वाला. This is okay. Enculturations. Enculturation is the process by which people learn the dynamics of their surrounding culture and acquire values and norms appropriate or necessary to that culture, its world views. Okay. Enculturations में short questions भी आ सकता है. ओके मतलब 2 क्वेश्चंस मैंने डिफाइन किए हैं. ओके, आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट द 4 क्वेश्चंस. 4 क्वेश्चंस नहीं है, तो 1.5 क्वेश्चंस हैं. ओके, जो रेस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस है डे आफ्टर आई विल explain, make the notes. Otherwise you have got the notes, okay. You can make by yourself, but you are not making, so I will make and I'll send you, right guys? Okay, और ये जो रेस्ट ऑफ द नोट्स है ना, you have got it. सोशियोलॉजी के जो हैं, है ना, ऑलरेडी यू ऑल्सो हैव गॉट इट. तो मैंने इसके साथ भी ना आई हैव अटैच्ड आफ्टर योर क्वेश्चंस सॉल्व्ड आंसर्स, राइट. you got it ना, this one, yes. तो ओके गाइस, thank you so much for this class. So today basically we have talked about 2 papers. First paper complete, I have given you the notes, and second papers half, approximately half, because rest of the notes over there na. So day after we will cover our, it was easy for the next class, so we will cover the sections B and as well as curriculum, this one also, right guys. Even I will make a notes for you, even the last year paper I will solve to you, okay. And if you prepare from the last year paper, so you think yourself at least 80% paper you have learned, right. Rest of the 20 parts, whatever is left, see the syllabus, so you can learn from the books or from my notes also, right guys. More focus given on the notes which I have given you in the shape of solving the last year paper and some other notes, okay. The rest of the part you can get from the book also, okay guys. So these are everything about this. So now guys I show last year paper. So this is the last year paper, Hana, you got it, sociology perspective in educations. तो सेक्शंस ए और बी ना वी आर डन, राइट. अब सेक्शन सी आप देख लो. सी में व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, learn the first questions. Now you can unmute yourself, all of you. What is the scope of sociology of educations? So we have covered from that, right guys. Concept of culture we have covered. आ गया ना culture, concept of a culture, right. Social and versus natural inequalities. So a lot of things we have also covered from that, okay. These short questions, because when you prepare your long questions na, so short questions automatically you prepare your short questions, right guys. So these all the papers I have already sent to you, okay guys. Yes. So thank you so much for this class, right guys. So be next after the day after we will discuss our rest of the questions of paper 1 and paper 3, making the notes I will send you the same way we will discuss in the class, okay guys. Okay, ji, thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, ji, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.